A long time ago, in a small village, there lived a young man. He was known for his impatience and quick temper. He often argued over small matters and gave sharp, immediate replies. Over time, people began avoiding him because of his behavior. The young man soon realized that his actions brought him stress and loneliness instead of happiness. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't change himself. One day, he heard that a wise old monk was giving a sermon in a nearby forest. The young man had heard many stories about the monk's wisdom and kindness. Hoping to find answers, he decided to attend the sermon. When he arrived, he saw a large crowd gathered. The monk spoke in simple and calm words, sharing deep truths about life. At one point, the monk said, "If you want real change in your life, learn to remain silent in 10 situations." These words gave the young man hope. After the sermon, he approached the monk, bowed, and said, "You mentioned 10 places where we should remain silent. Could you explain them to me?" The monk smiled and said, "To understand this, you will need patience, discipline, and self-reflection. If you are ready to learn, come with me." The young man agreed, and his journey began. Young man, eager to learn, listened intently as wise old monk shared these teachings, each accompanied by a story to help him understand. 1. Silence in criticism. Wise old monk began, when someone criticizes you, listen quietly. Do not respond immediately. Let their words fall like rain, and see if any of them can help you grow. He continued, once, a wise man was criticized harshly. Instead of reacting, he asked, "If someone gives you a gift, and you do not accept it, who keeps it?" The critic replied, "The giver." Similarly, criticism only affects you if you choose to take it. Young man thought deeply. He realized that, often, his instinct was to defend himself, which only made matters worse. 2. Silence in arguments. The monk then said, "In arguments, it is ego, not truth, that often wins. Silence helps you see things more clearly and helps prevent further conflict." He shared a story of 2 farmers arguing over a piece of land. They were both stubborn and proud, claiming the land as their own. When asked, "Did you bring the land when you were born, and will you take it with you when you die?" they both fell silent, realizing how insignificant their fight was in the grand scheme of life. Young man reflected on his own frequent quarrels and understood the futility of many of them. 3. Silence in anger. Wise old monk continued, when anger arises, keep quiet. Anger is like fire, if you add fuel to it, it grows. But if you stay still, it will burn out. The monk told him of a king who, in a fit of rage, sentenced his minister to death. The minister, instead of arguing, remained silent. The next day, the king regretted his decision and pardoned the minister. Had the minister responded in anger, his life may have been lost. Young man felt the wisdom of this lesson, understanding that silence in the face of anger could protect his peace. 4. Silence in sorrow. Wise old monk spoke gently, when you are in sorrow, do not speak hastily. In grief, silence is often the best companion. He told young man of a woman who had lost her child. A friend came to her and said, "I know no words can bring comfort, but my presence will." The woman simply nodded, and together, they sat in silence, for words could not ease the pain, but silence brought a deep, quiet healing. Young man understood that sometimes, sorrow needs no explanation, only companionship. 5. Silence in provocation. Do not respond when provoked, the monk advised. Maintaining calmness when someone tries to rile you shows strength and self-control. The monk recalled a story of a sage who was insulted by villagers. Instead of reacting, he remained silent. Over time, the villagers realized their words had no effect and stopped provoking him. Young man realized that silence could be a powerful form of resistance. 6. Silence when unsolicited help is unnecessary. The wise monk said, "Sometimes, it is better to remain silent when you see someone struggling, if they have not asked for your help." He shared a story of a man who saw a butterfly struggling to break out of its cocoon. He tried to help, but the butterfly struggled more. A passerby said, "The butterfly must struggle on its own to develop the strength to fly." Young man saw that by offering unsolicited advice, he might be taking away someone else's chance to learn and grow. 7. Silence in knowledge. Wise old monk continued, "True wisdom is shown through humility. Do not boast of your knowledge. Let your actions speak." He told the story of a young scholar who came to the monk, eager to share all he knew. Wise old monk said, "You are like a cup full of water. If it is full, nothing new can be added." The scholar understood that wisdom is about quiet reflection, not showing off knowledge. Young man began to see how his desire to display his knowledge sometimes clouded his judgment. 8. Silence when truth is unwelcome. The monk then explained, "Sometimes, truth can only be understood when the heart is ready to hear it. If you share it before then, it may cause pain instead of healing." He recounted a tale of a man who tried to force his truth upon a group of people in denial. The more he spoke, the more they resisted. When the time was right, the truth found its way to them in silence. Young man understood that truth must be shared with care and timing. 9. Silence in uncontrollable situations. Wise old monk said, "There will be times when things are beyond your control. In such moments, silence and acceptance are your best responses." He shared a story of a farmer who complained about a drought. Instead of lamenting, the farmer took action to find new ways to irrigate his crops. Accepting what could not be changed gave him peace and clarity. Young man learned that surrendering to the uncontrollable was not weakness, but wisdom. 10. Silence in joy and gratitude. Finally, the monk said, "When your heart is full of joy or gratitude, there is no need for words. Let your silence express your happiness." He spoke of a man who, upon receiving a gift of great value, bowed deeply without speaking. His silent gratitude spoke louder than any words could have. Young man felt a deep peace within, understanding that true contentment did not always require words. Years passed, and young man, now a wise and serene man, returned to the monastery to thank wise old monk. "Master," he said, "I have changed. I learned to keep quiet at these 10 places, and my life has been transformed. My heart is at peace." Wise monk smiled gently. "The quietest waters hold the deepest wisdom, young man. Remember, silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of understanding." And so, young man's journey continued, each day learning more about the strength found in silence. If we look at our own lives, we often find ourselves caught in arguments, criticism, anger, and even sorrow. We react impulsively, thinking that speaking out will bring us relief or victory, but more often than not, it only adds to the chaos. The young man's journey with the wise old monk teaches us that there is great strength in silence. Silence is not just about holding back words, it is about choosing peace over conflict, understanding over ego, and compassion over judgment. When we learn to be silent at the right moments, we open our hearts to true wisdom and clarity. Like the young man, we can transform our lives by practicing silence in our daily challenges, whether in criticism, anger, or even joy. In silence, we find healing, control, and the power to make wiser decisions. Let us remember that sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. When we keep quiet at these 10 places, we make room for peace, growth, and a deeper connection with ourselves and the world around us.